Hello, Astro friends. It's Melanie with the Astro Weather, starting today, July the 2nd, and going until July the 8th. So we are now smack in the center of Cancer, which has a Scorpio undertone. Are you noticing? Since yesterday, it would have started July the 1st and goes until July the 11th. Sorry about that, which is the day after the Capricorn Cancer full moon. We are in the center of Cancer, and the center of each sign has an undertone of the fixed sign of that element. In this case, for the water element, it's Scorpio. So what's going on with that? This is the deeper, these deeper undercurrents that are going on emotionally. This is a very psychological, deep dive energy. And of course, it has a lot to do with childhood, with family, with home, all the Cancerian themes. And for the Cancerian, central Cancerian countries, Canada and United States, they have their sun in the Scorpio undertone of Cancer as well. So there's a lot going on in the background, in the underground, in the historic underground, shadow elements, things that need to be processed. So if you have placements in that area as well, you probably know what I'm talking about. Themes that might make you feel uncomfortable, but it's super important to go into it, not hide it, not repress it, not let things fester, but actually go through it. And so what's coming up with that in this week? Specifically, do we have anything else going on in central Cancer? No, it's just the sun, so it's not super emphasized. But many other things are happening here, especially on Friday the 4th and on Monday the 7th. These are two highlight days, not just for the week, but for the whole month. What am I talking about? Let's start with Friday. Friday, the 4th of July, will be also a Freya, in other words, a Venus day. Friday is the day of Venus. Also, you can see it in the Roman languages. Viernes, Vendredi, Venerdì in Italian. They're all derived from Venus, and in the Germanic and Norse and English culture, it's Freya, it's Norse goddess of love, the equivalent of Venus. So it is a Venus day. Why so? This time specifically because Venus at the very, very end of Taurus, which she rules, will meet Uranus there just before entering Gemini. And then, spoiler alert, so Uranus will also go into Gemini on Monday the 7th, following Venus. So it will be quite the Venus-Uranus weekend. And what's that all about? Venus and Uranus in combination. This is an excitement. This can be shifts and sparks, right? Sparks are flying because depending on what we're attracted to. And from the Taurus side, it's the energy of joy, of sensuality, of anything that makes us feel, anything that actually also agrees with our values, right? Anything we might have desires for. Scorpio Taurus is also the pleasure pain axis, right? So Scorpio is about pain and deeper emotional psychological processes that are also often uncomfortable, while Taurus has a lot to do with pleasure. So, and Uranus in Taurus, where it's almost through, just one more little phase remaining when Uranus goes once more back to Taurus. Has been since 2018, 2019. It fully kicked off in March 2019. Uranus in Taurus, there's been so much disruption, to the natural world, to biology, to the economy, right? To anything that promises stability and should be about comfort, but we've been kicked out of our comfort zone, our comfort trap, for better or worse, with Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is not comfortable in Taurus, but maybe it has kicked you into new levels of genuine freedom, and that can have to do also with freedom from attachment. Then, so Uranus will be at its exit point, at its preliminary exit point from Taurus, met by Venus. So this is a beautiful farewell, and then can also mean, for some of us, can also mean an exit. In other words, I'm out of here, even in relationships, right? If relationships have not allowed for freedom, allowed for shared values, allowed for comfort, and it's been just erratic and inconsistent and annoying and crazy, right? This might be your chance to exit those. And sometimes there needs to be some catalyst, there needs to be some sudden event that is a Uranian phenomenon. It's not a long, slow, dragged out scene. So Venus Uranus can suddenly bring love and attraction into your world, but also can get you out of it. It's typically an off again, on again energy as well, as it emphasizes so much the spontaneity and the freedom, but can have sometimes these not so healthy expressions as well. So, surprise, surprise for Venus Uranus. And then, as I said, Venus will enter Gemini in the afternoon of July the 4th, depending where you are. Sorry, it's in the morning. It's in the morning, even here on the West Coast. And Venus in Gemini will be on until July the 30th. So this brings lightness, this brings brightness and like sprightness even into the field, flirtatiousness, anything that it's just flirting with possibilities, and also it's the attraction to learning, to conversation, communication, to news, even to anything that stimulates the mind. And it can be also energy that is mostly happening in the mind and not so much in the emotional or physical realm. Just the pure Gemini energy I'm talking about now, right? It's always mixed, but this is Venus in Gemini per se. And Venus in Gemini is also about alchemy, alchemy of love and of lightness. So why alchemy? Because Gemini is an alchemist. Scorpio is also a different kind of, but let's stay with Gemini here. And what is that? It's the alchemy of polarities, of opposites. Just think of the yin yang. Just think of these inner masculine, inner feminine. It's the sign after Aries ruled by Mars and Venus ruled by Taurus ruled by Venus, right? So now we're having the alchemy of these two sides, and ideally we're reconciling them inside of us, and sometimes it also takes outside stimulation and attraction for that to be facilitated. So more about Venus in Gemini on my blog article, which you can also find a link for below here in the show notes, but also, as always, on my Facebook page, which I also link below. And so, as I said, Friday the 4th, but there's more to Friday the 4th. Also happening on the same day, now in the evening, Neptune. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. In fact, there's also connection here. And Neptune has entered Aries, actually, end of March, and come and been almost met by Saturn lately. However, Neptune goes retrograde on the 4th until the 10th of December, followed by Saturn, also in early Aries, as I said, going retrograde on July the 12th until November, end of November, 24th, I believe. When is it? Okay, let me just verify. November 27th. And so what's with Neptune's retro journey? This is the last time Neptune goes back into Pisces, in fact, from October 22nd on. So super significant. And I just wrote an article for Neptune Retro because it marks, together with this alignment of Saturn and Neptune, which becomes most exact on July the 12th, it marks the outflow of the Pisces age and the emergence of a new era, the Aries side. But now, as Neptune goes retrograde, it's also an unraveling. It's like a moving away from what type of Aries dynamics, war and conflict. So we need to transcend those, not just find temporary solutions or fix what seems broken, but actually transcend the whole concept. This is very Neptunian. Transcend the concept of war and conflict, and also look at where does conflict start, like in ourselves, right? With a retrograde energy, am I conflicted? Am I at odds with myself? Am I battling? Are different sides of me battling? And then am I projected on the outside, in the outside world, and might be attracted to more material, let's say news and such, that confirms this conflict, and I feed that energy then also in the energy field itself, right? So we need to become conscious of these phenomena, also of manipulation and of delusion, of deception, all these sides that Neptune can express, which have been actually very characteristic also of the Pisces age of the last 2,100 years. This is something I just found out today when I wrote this article, because I was like, wanted to explore when Saturn and Neptune were aligned before in early Aries. So I found this discussion group that had various years suggesting alignments of Saturn, Neptune in Aries. The years are 1703, 1380, 232 BC, and also, no, sorry, AD, and also the year 92 BC. All of those I verified with the ephemeris. You can find these tables of planets and planetary planetary transits through the signs online at astro.com. So none of those, each time it's correct, Saturn and Neptune were aligned in Aries, but never were they aligned in early Aries. This is quite striking because that also shows us like how rare this really is, that Saturn and Neptune align now in July at about 2 degrees Aries, and then again exactly in on February 20th, 2026 at 1 degree of Aries. And again, in combination with Pluto in early Aquarius, now also Uranus going into Gemini, which I'm going to talk about, that all these phenomena point to a beginning of a whole new era. And naturally, we also need now in the overlap, right, which this year is quite a transition year, quite an overlap year, the release of all these Pisces age phenomena. And the interface of Pisces Aries, yes, can be the mass manipulation into war, right? So how come this is even acceptable in humanity? And how come people can be so divided? that they fight against each other, or there are all these interests, of course, typically economic interests and power interests, that feed the whole war phenomena, with humanity not being able to stop this. And so a lot of that is now up, and not to justify what's going on in all these battlegrounds and war scenes, but also to really work with that energy that is available right now in these realms, even if you're not um, technically directly involved. We can still, especially with Neptune and Neptune retrograde, work energetically and on a spiritual level, holding space. What do we feed into the energy field? All of that, right? And unravel our attention, um, our own upset into it, right? So, what is the healing that is needed here, basically? Okay, then we have, as I said, the second major alignment or shift, I should say, this week will be Monday the 7th, when Uranus enters Gemini for phase number 1, because it's not fully yet, but it's a trial phase this year. July 7th till November 7th is when Uranus starts to enter Gemini, and yeah, we will notice that shift. What's the cusp even about that Uranus is hovering now, and in fact for the rest of the year? With this, just the furthest Uranus goes into Gemini is, let me just go here, September, early September, Uranus goes retrograde from 1/28 or so, Gemini. So it doesn't even go into 2 degrees, right on the cusp. And the cusp of Taurus Gemini, I call that the voice point. So something needs to find, we need to find a voice for something. Something needs to be voiced. We need to give a voice to, who knows, something that, and somebody or beings who don't have a voice. So it's about voicing. It's also about the material plane, which is Taurus, is shifting to a mental, intellectual plane, which is Gemini. Of course, this is also the advent and the big, even bigger than we've seen so far, revolution of AI coming in through Uranus and with mirrored by Uranus in Gemini. And what's your sense about that? How do we retain our freedom with Uranus, our independence from these oh so convenient and oh so smart Taurus Gemini machines, right? So very important to not give that, to not outsource that, and yeah, use what's useful, but not being used by it. Always very important. And then if you have anything on that cusp, and now in early Gemini, so you might be born on that cusp around the 22nd, 23rd of May, you definitely notice this Uranian shift. And if your moon is there, your ascendant planets are there, super relevant for you. Article will come for that. I'm really busy these days with writing, and I'm not using AI. By the way, it's my NI, the natural intelligence prevails here. And so Uranus, big shift here. And generally speaking, Uranus is much better placed in Gemini than it has been in Taurus, where it's considered in fall, because your Taurus likes stability. Taurus provides. It's very earthy. It's very solid, and Uranus is very disruptive. So we've seen a lot of that, right? But Uranus rules Aquarius, and that is quite compatible with Gemini. However, it will also be quite the catalyst for this Pluto in Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, right? Pluto in Aquarius phenomena and process and evolution we're already in. So yeah, and more of the air element. Then we have this week, the moon is now in Libra until Friday the 4th. Yes, also Scorpio moon day. Friday 4th is quite a kicker. So the moon goes into Scorpio at 2:33 a.m. on Friday, and for now, it's about compatibility, the dance of relatedness, choices, all of this, and culture, art, all of that. And then from when the moon is in Scorpio, which will be until the afternoon, 3:06 p.m. on Sunday, yeah, most of the weekend. So choices have consequences. This is the alchemy point, when alchemy in the zodiac in this case, right? So Gemini said is an alchemist, but also Scorpio to uh, Libra to Scorpio is an alchemy energy where ingredients come together and create some magic. Or it's also the tipping point, choice point, various themes for that. So choices with consequences, and maybe diving into something that you might have been sitting on the fence with. So doing something about it, and making a move here, and see how that makes you feel. So that's a Scorpio moon. Scorpio moon is often feared. It's in general the place, the sign in the zodiac where the moon is considered the least comfortable. But I must say also, I really appreciate the Scorpio moon, because then what's usually just you know hidden just in plain sight, or just under the surface, can really be processed, and we feel deeper, more intimacy emotionally is being people lean towards that, more magic can happen. Then Scorpio moon magic. And then the moon goes over the Phoenix point from Scorpio to Sagittarius on Sunday the 6th in the afternoon. And then the energy, of course, rises again. And maybe these processes we've gone through emotionally lead to more freedom, more understanding, more wisdom, more um, insight, more overview of things, and more fun, right? And we have stories to tell. That is Sagittarius. So Sagittarius moon will be on Monday, all day Monday, and all day Tuesday. So as long as this Astro Weather week goes. Have I forgotten anything? Nope. I think that's it for today. Oh, one thing. Speaking of Gemini, ruled by Mercury, Mercury will go retrograde soon on July 17th. Yeah, I hear you. You are like, oh no. But it's 3 times a year for 3 weeks, and it's that time of the season again. This time fully in Leo. Mercury is already in Leo and will be for a super long time until early September in Leo, including that retrograde phase, which goes from the 17th of July till the 11th of August. So why is this relevant already? Because Mercury has just now, with July 1st, yesterday, entered the pre-retro shadow. What does that mean? Technically, that means the point in the zodiac from which it will eventually go direct again on August the 11th. So this is the overall bigger sphere in the zodiac, where Mercury goes forward, backward, forward, right? So um, and that can sometimes foreshadow, actually quite often, shouldn't make that just relative. It can foreshadow phenomena that might come up during that time. You can have premonitions and see how you can address those already. rather than when they come up in the actual retro phase. And Mercury will then go into the pre-retro storm. When's that the case? On Thursday. So that's only on the 10th with the full moon. On the 10th of July, Mercury will go into pre-retro storm. And that's then the phase. Okay, here's my. Okay, here we go. That will be the phase when Mercury goes into the slow pre-retro U-turn. So when Mercury is the slowest, when it's in pre and post-retro storm, before and just before and just after going retrograde. And at that time, it's really important to keep an eye on communication, and especially miscommunication with the Leo on the Leo side, stuff that typically has to do with the ego, and also can have to do with the creativity and with getting attention and getting love and rather than just criticism or dismissal or being ignored, right? Stuff like that. That can create some funk in the mind and in communication. So being mindful is always a good idea, especially with Mercury retro and in the build-up phase that we are about to enter. So this is it for this week, and I'm glad I could do this video this evening, just also because I had actually an online session scheduled with a client, but he requested the rescheduling for later this week. So we're all good, and that created space for the audio, the video recording here. So there's also a positive side of Mercury pre-retro. Just hopefully a little example of that, right? So Mercury always suggests to be creative and also to keep the fun factor up, not taking things too seriously and not buying into too much into that trickster, calling out the trickster, playing with the trickster, but not being ruled by the trickster. Anyway, I wish you a beautiful week and hope to see you in real life, or otherwise you can see me here on the next Astro video, or we connect where we do. Have a beautiful July entry and a real deal start into summer. Cheers.